My name is Nadia, and I'm 28 years old. I've always believed in the power of true friendship, but mine was about to be put to the test in ways I never thought possible. Growing up in Kingston, I had a small circle of friends, but there was one person who stood out, my best friend, Karen. We met in high school, bonded over our love of dance hall music, and quickly became inseparable. Or so I thought. As I look back, I realized that our friendship was built on trust, laughter, and late-night conversations about our dreams and aspirations. Karen was more than just a friend to me. She was like a sister. We shared everything with each other, from our deepest secrets to our wildest ambitions. I thought I knew her better than anyone else, but little did I know that beneath her charming smile and warm demeanor lay a complex web of deceit and betrayal. My life was pretty ordinary, working as a marketing specialist in a small firm in Kingston. I loved my job, and I was good at it too. Karen, on the other hand, was working as a freelance writer, using her creativity to craft stories that captivated her readers. We would often meet up for coffee, discussing our projects and offering each other advice and support. But despite our strong bond, I began to notice subtle changes in Karen's behavior. She would sometimes cancel our plans at the last minute, citing work commitments or personal emergencies. I brushed it off as her being busy, but deep down, I knew something was amiss. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I sensed that something was off. As the months went by, our friendship continued to grow, but the distance between us seemed to be increasing. I couldn't understand why Karen was pulling away, and I felt like I was losing my best friend. I tried to reach out to her, to talk to her about what was going on, but she just brushed me off, telling me she was fine. I remember the day everything changed. It was a beautiful morning in April, and I was getting ready for work when Karen called me, asking to meet up for lunch. I agreed, thinking it would be a great opportunity for us to catch up and talk about our lives. But as I sat down at the table, I noticed that Karen seemed different. She was distant, preoccupied, and hardly made eye contact. I brushed it off as her being stressed, but little did I know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would shake me to my core. As I reflect on that day, I realized that there were signs, subtle hints that something was wrong. But I ignored them, choosing instead to believe that our friendship was strong enough to withstand any challenge. I was wrong, dead wrong. And it's a lesson I've learned the hard way, that sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones who hurt us the most. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves as I waited for Karen to arrive. I had no idea what was about to unfold, but I knew that our friendship would never be the same again. The question was, would I survive the storm that was brewing, or would I be left shattered and broken? Only time would tell. My life was ordinary, working as a marketing specialist in Kingston. I loved my job and was good at it. My best friend Karen, a freelance writer, would often meet up with me for coffee, discussing our projects and sharing advice. One day, I noticed subtle changes in Karen's behavior. She would cancel plans at the last minute, citing work or personal emergencies. I brushed it off as Karen being busy, but deep down, I knew something was amiss. As the months went by, our friendship continued to grow, but the distance between us seemed to increase. I couldn't understand why Karen was pulling away and felt like I was losing my best friend. I tried to reach out, talk to Karen about what was going on, but Karen just brushed me off, telling me she was fine. I remembered the day everything changed. Karen called me, asking to meet up for lunch. I agreed, thinking it would be a great opportunity for us to catch up and talk about our lives. As we sat down at the table, I noticed Karen seemed different. She was distant, preoccupied, and hardly made eye contact. "Hey, what's going on?" I asked, concern etched in my voice. "Nothing, I'm just stressed with work," Karen replied, her eyes darting around the room. I wasn't convinced. I knew Karen well enough to recognize when she was hiding something, but I let it slide, thinking maybe Karen would open up later. As we continued to chat, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I tried to push the thought away, focusing on the conversation, but my mind kept wandering back to Karen's strange behavior. After lunch, I walked Karen out, hugging her tightly. "I'm here for you no matter what," I said, looking into Karen's eyes. Karen smiled weakly and nodded. "Thanks, I appreciate it." As we parted ways, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets Karen was hiding. I felt a pang of unease, sensing that our friendship was on the cusp of a dramatic shift. Days turned into weeks, and I noticed more changes in Karen. She became increasingly withdrawn, canceling plans and avoiding conversations. I tried to reach out, but Karen's responses were curt and dismissive. One evening, I decided to drop by Karen's place, hoping to catch up and clear the air. As I knocked on the door, I felt a mix of emotions: concern, frustration, and curiosity. The door creaked open, and Karen stood before me, looking tired and worn out. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I stepped inside, taking in the messy room and Karen's disheveled appearance. "I was worried about you," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "You've been distant lately, and I feel like I'm losing you." Karen sighed, flopping down onto the couch. "I'm sorry. I've just got a lot on my plate right now." I sat down beside her, my eyes locked onto Karen's. "You can tell me anything," I said softly. "I'm here to listen." Karen's gaze faltered, and for a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of tears. But Karen looked away, her voice cracking as she spoke. "I'll tell you soon, I promise. Just give me some time." I nodded, my heart heavy with concern. I knew Karen well enough to recognize when she was struggling, and I was determined to be there for her, no matter what secrets she was hiding. I continued to notice subtle changes in Karen's behavior. She would often cancel plans or show up late, citing various excuses. I tried to be understanding, but the frequency of these incidents was starting to take a toll on me. Despite my growing frustration, I couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility towards Karen. She had always been there for me in the past, and I wanted to return the favor. One evening, I decided to drop by Karen's place, hoping to catch up and clear the air. As I arrived, I noticed that her apartment was spotless, almost too perfect. Karen greeted me warmly and offered me a cup of coffee. We sat down in the living room, and I couldn't help but notice the faint scent of perfume wafting through the air. As we chatted, I brought up the topic of her recent behavior. Karen laughed it off, attributing it to work stress and personal issues. I listened attentively, trying to offer words of encouragement. But as the conversation progressed, I started to feel like something wasn't quite right. Karen seemed overly interested in my personal life, asking probing questions about my job and relationships. I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. But Karen's friendly demeanor put me at ease, and I found myself opening up to her. As the evening wore on, I began to notice inconsistencies in Karen's story. She would contradict herself or change the subject abruptly. I brushed it off as mere forgetfulness, but the nagging feeling persisted. "Karen, can I ask you something?" I said, my voice laced with curiosity. "Of course. What's up?" Karen replied, her eyes locked onto mine. "Do you have a boyfriend?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Karen's expression faltered for a split second before she regained her composure. "No, I don't," she said, her voice steady. I nodded, taking her answer at face value. But as I left her apartment that evening, I couldn't shake off the feeling that Karen was hiding something from me. The question was, what? Over the next few weeks, I continued to spend time with Karen, trying to get to the bottom of her strange behavior. But the more I saw her, the more I realized that I was dealing with a complex person, full of contradictions. Karen was warm and caring one moment, distant and detached the next. As our friendship deepened, I found myself torn between my loyalty to Karen and my growing unease. I didn't know what to make of her behavior or what she was capable of, but I was determined to find out. As I looked back on our friendship, I realized that I had been blind to the signs. Karen's behavior had been erratic for months, but I had chosen to ignore it. Now, I was starting to wonder if I had misjudged her entirely. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that Karen was a master of manipulation. She knew exactly what to say and do to keep me invested in our friendship. But what was her endgame? And how far would she go to get what she wanted? I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation as I thought about the future of our friendship. Karen's facade was starting to crack, and I wasn't sure what lay beneath. But I was determined to find out, no matter what it took. As I sat in my living room, staring at a photo of Karen and me, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets she was hiding. The smile on her face seemed genuine, but I knew better now. I was on high alert, ready to uncover the truth behind Karen's facade. The question was, would I be able to handle what I discovered? Only time would tell. I stared at the email on my screen, my heart sinking with each word. It was from my boss, informing me that Karen had been promoted to a senior role in our company. I felt a wave of shock and disappointment wash over me. How could this be? I had been working twice as hard as Karen, and yet she was the one getting the promotion. I immediately picked up the phone and dialed Karen's number. When she answered, I couldn't help but ask her about the promotion. "Karen, I just saw the email. Congratulations on the promotion," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Thanks, Nadia." "I'm thrilled," Karen replied, her voice sounding cheerful. I hesitated, unsure how to broach the subject. "Karen, can I ask you something? How did you get the promotion? I thought I was next in line for the role." Karen's tone changed, becoming slightly defensive. "I don't know, Nadia. Maybe the boss just thought I was a better fit for the role." I felt a surge of frustration. "A better fit? That's not fair. I've been working just as hard as you, if not harder." Karen sighed. "Nadia, don't take it personally. It's just business." I couldn't believe her response. "Just business? You're my friend, Karen. I thought we supported each other." Karen's voice became cold. "We are friends, Nadia, but this is about my career. You need to focus on yours." I felt a chill run down my spine. Something didn't feel right. Why was Karen being so dismissive? I tried to push the thought away, telling myself I was just being paranoid. But as I hung up the phone, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I decided to investigate further, starting with talking to our colleagues and seeing if they had any insight into the promotion process. As I walked to the office, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What had just happened? Had Karen really gotten the promotion on merit, or was there something more to it? When I arrived at the office, I headed straight to the break room, where I found one of my colleagues, Rachel, sipping her coffee. "Hey, Rachel, did you hear about Karen's promotion?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Rachel nodded. "Yeah, I heard. I'm not surprised, though. Karen's been sucking up to the boss for months." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? I hadn't noticed." Rachel leaned in closer. "Trust me, Nadia. Karen's been playing the game, and it looks like it's paid off for her." I felt a knot in my stomach. Was Rachel telling the truth? Had Karen really manipulated her way to the top? As I continued to chat with Rachel, I couldn't help but wonder what had really gone down. Was Karen's promotion a result of her hard work, or was there something more sinister at play? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I didn't know Karen as well as I thought I did, and that realization was both unsettling and intriguing. I spent the next few days trying to process what had happened. Karen's promotion had come out of nowhere, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. I decided to dig deeper, starting with reviewing the company's promotion policies and procedures. As I sat at my desk, scrolling through the company's intranet, I stumbled upon a document that caught my attention. It was a memo from HR, outlining the criteria for promotions. I scanned the document, my eyes widening as I realized that Karen didn't meet several of the key requirements. I felt a surge of curiosity. How had Karen managed to get promoted despite not meeting the requirements? I decided to investigate further, starting with talking to other colleagues who had applied for the promotion. I made a list of colleagues who had been in the running for the promotion and started making phone calls. After several conversations, I discovered that 2 other colleagues had also been highly qualified for the role. One of them, Alex, had even received excellent performance reviews and had been with the company longer than Karen. I decided to reach out to Alex, hoping to get more information. When we spoke, Alex told me that they had been shocked when Karen got the promotion. "I don't understand how she got the job," Alex said. "I've been working here for years, and I've consistently received positive performance reviews." I asked Alex if they had any idea why Karen might have gotten the promotion. Alex hesitated before responding. "I've heard rumors that Karen has a connection with someone in upper management. I don't know if it's true, but it wouldn't surprise me." I thanked Alex for their honesty and hung up the phone. The more I learned, the more I realized that something fishy was going on. I decided to confront Karen about what I had discovered. When I called Karen, she answered on the first ring. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, sounding cheerful. "I need to talk to you about something," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I've been looking into the company's promotion policies, and I noticed that you didn't meet several of the key requirements for the role." Karen's tone changed, becoming guarded. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "I'm talking about the memo from HR," I replied. "It's clear that you didn't meet the requirements for the promotion. So, I have to ask, how did you really get the job?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. For a moment, I thought Karen might hang up on me. But then she spoke, her voice low and measured. "Nadia, I don't know what you're insinuating, but I assure you, I earned the promotion. Maybe you're just jealous." I felt a spark of anger. "Jealous? You think I'm jealous of you?" "Karen, I just want to know the truth. Did you have help getting the promotion?" Karen's voice became icy. "Nadia, I don't appreciate your tone. Maybe we should talk about this in person." I agreed, and we made plans to meet up later that day. As I hung up the phone, I couldn't help but wonder what Karen would say when I confronted her. Would she admit to doing something wrong, or would she deny everything? I was determined to find out. I sat in stunned silence, the weight of Karen's betrayal settling in. The sound of the coffee shop's background chatter and clinking cups faded into the background as I stared at her, my mind reeling with questions. How could she do this to me? Our friendship? Our trust? Everything felt like a lie. Karen's voice cut through my thoughts, her tone laced with a mix of guilt and defensiveness. "Nadia, I know you're upset, but you have to understand. I did what I had to do to get ahead." I felt a surge of anger, my voice rising. "Get ahead? At my expense? You sabotaged me, Karen. You ruined my chances of getting the promotion and now you're trying to justify it?" Karen's eyes darted around the coffee shop, her gaze avoiding mine. "I didn't sabotage you, Nadia. I took advantage of an opportunity, and I'm sorry if it hurt you." I laughed, the sound bitter. "Sorry? You're sorry? You have no idea how this feels, Karen. You've been my friend for years, and you throw it all away for a promotion." The coffee shop's patrons began to stare, drawn in by our rising voices. Karen's face reddened, her voice taking on a desperate tone. "Nadia, please understand. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just trying to get ahead." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "Get ahead? You mean at my expense?" "I don't think so, Karen. Our friendship is over. I don't want anything to do with you." As I turned to leave, Karen's voice followed me, her words laced with desperation. "Nadia, don't go. We can work through this. We can fix our friendship." I turned back to her, my eyes cold. "Fix our friendship? You think it's that easy? You've broken my trust, Karen, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you." The coffee shop's door swung shut behind me, and I took a deep breath of the cool outside air. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, mixed with a deep sadness. Our friendship was over, and I knew it. As I walked away from the coffee shop, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets Karen had been hiding. Had she been manipulating me all along? And what did she plan to do next? The questions swirled in my mind, but I knew I had to focus on myself now. I had to pick up the pieces of my shattered trust and move on. I took another deep breath, feeling a sense of determination rising within me. I would rebuild my life, and I would do it without Karen. I would learn to trust again, but it would take time. For now, I just had to take things one step at a time. As I walked, the city streets seemed to blur together, my mind consumed by thoughts of Karen and our friendship. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, but I was ready to face it. I was ready to move on, to heal, and to start anew. The sound of my footsteps echoed through the streets, a steady beat that seemed to match the rhythm of my heart. I knew I would be okay, that I would survive this betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. And as I walked, I felt a sense of hope rising within me, a sense of possibility that I hadn't felt in a long time. I would rebuild my life, and I would do it on my own terms. I would learn to trust myself, to trust my instincts, and to trust that everything would work out for the best. And as I disappeared into the crowd, I knew that I was taking the first step towards a new beginning. I stood outside Karen's office, my heart racing as I prepared to confront her. I had been gathering evidence for weeks, and I was ready to expose her deceit. I took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and walked in. Karen looked up from her desk, a hint of surprise on her face. "Nadia, what brings you here?" she asked, her voice neutral. I walked over to her desk, my eyes locked on hers. "We need to talk, Karen. I've been investigating, and I know what's been going on." Karen's expression changed, a flicker of fear crossing her face before she regained her composure. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice calm. I pulled out a folder filled with documents and evidence. "Don't play dumb, Karen. I have proof. I know you sabotaged me to get the promotion. I know you lied to me and manipulated me." Karen's eyes narrowed, her face reddening. "You think you have proof? You think you can take me down?" "I've been playing this game for years, Nadia. I'm not going down without a fight." I smiled, a sense of determination rising within me. "I'm not afraid of you, Karen. I'm not afraid to expose you for who you are. You've hurt me, you've hurt our friendship, and you've hurt our colleagues. It's time someone held you accountable." Karen stood up, her eyes blazing with anger. "You think you're better than me? You think you're more deserving of the promotion?" Newsflash, Nadia. This is the real world, and in the real world, people do what it takes to get ahead. I took a step closer to her, my voice firm. "I'm not better than you, Karen, but I'm not a liar or a cheat either. I'm a hard worker, and I deserve the recognition I get. You, on the other hand, have built your career on deceit and manipulation, and it's time it stops." The tension between us was palpable, the air thick with unspoken words. Karen's face twisted with rage, and for a moment, I thought she might lash out. But then she seemed to regain control, her expression smoothing out. "We'll see about that," she said, her voice cold. I nodded, a sense of satisfaction rising within me. "I'm looking forward to it." I turned and walked out of her office, ready to take on whatever came next. I walked out of Karen's office, feeling a sense of determination. I knew I had to take action, to report her behavior to our superiors. I made my way to the HR department, my heart pounding in my chest. As I sat down with the HR representative, I poured out my story, telling her everything. She listened attentively, her expression growing more serious by the minute. "I'll investigate this thoroughly," she said, her voice firm. We'll get to the bottom of this, Nadia. And if Karen has indeed engaged in misconduct, she'll face consequences. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I knew I had done the right thing. The investigation took several weeks, but eventually the results came in. Karen had indeed manipulated her way to the top, using her connections and lying to get ahead. The company's CEO called a meeting to address the issue. Karen was demoted, and her future prospects with the company were uncertain. As I watched Karen's face fall, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Justice had been served. The CEO turned to me, his eyes serious. Nadia, we appreciate your courage in coming forward. You've shown integrity and a commitment to doing what's right. We're promoting you to the position Karen vacated. I was taken aback, but I nodded, accepting the offer. It was a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and prove myself. As I left the meeting room, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had stood up for myself, and I had done what was right. I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one where I would be recognized for my hard work and dedication. I walked back to my office, feeling a sense of purpose. I knew that I would face challenges along the way, but I was ready. I was ready to take on whatever came next, knowing that I had the support of my colleagues and the company behind me. The days that followed were busy as I settled into my new role, but I was determined to make the most of it, to prove myself and show what I was capable of. And as I looked to the future, I knew that I would come out stronger, more confident, and more resilient than ever before. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the familiar comforts of home. It had been weeks since I'd confronted Karen, and I'd been taking time to rebuild and reflect. I thought about the friendship we'd had, the laughter we'd shared, and the memories we'd created. But most of all, I thought about the betrayal. As I looked back, I realized that I'd ignored the signs. I'd excused Karen's behavior, made excuses for her, and given her the benefit of the doubt. But now, I saw things clearly. I'd been blinded by my own loyalty and trust. I stood up and walked over to the window, staring out at the city below. I thought about the people I'd talked to, the colleagues who'd shared their stories, and the strangers who'd offered words of encouragement. I realized that I wasn't alone, that there were people who understood me, who got it. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of resolve wash over me. I knew I had a long way to go, but I was ready to move forward. I was ready to rebuild my life, to focus on myself and to find my own path. As I turned away from the window, my eyes fell on a photo of Karen and me. We were smiling, arms around each other, happy. I stared at it for a moment, feeling a pang of sadness. Then I walked over to the trash can and dropped it in. I watched as the photo disappeared from view, feeling a sense of closure. It was time to let go of the past, to move on, and to start anew. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of determination rise within me. I was ready to start again, to find my own way, and to make my own path. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. I worked hard, focusing on my job and my own development. I made new friends, people who shared my values and my passions. And I learned to trust again, to trust myself and to trust others. As I looked back on the experience, I realized that it had taught me a lot. I'd learned about resilience, about perseverance, and about the importance of self-care. I'd learned to prioritize myself, to take care of myself, and to put my own needs first. And I'd learned to recognize the signs of toxic behavior, to set boundaries, and to stand up for myself. I knew that I'd never forget the lessons I'd learned, and I was grateful for that. I smiled to myself, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. I was stronger now, wiser now, and more confident now. I knew that I could handle whatever came my way, and I was ready for whatever the future held. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted? Whether it's a friend, family member, or colleague, dealing with betrayal can be tough. But what's important is how we respond to it. In today's story, we saw how one person handled betrayal and came out stronger on the other side. If you're dealing with a similar situation, know that you're not alone. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences and think about what you can do to move forward. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's support each other through tough times. If you liked this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And if you have a story you'd like to share, send it our way. We'd love to hear from you.